Chief Executive of Manufacturing Northern Ireland. We're joined on the call this afternoon with colleagues from the Trader Support Service to give us a review and some insight into what's been going on and what's likely to come down the track, and maybe hopefully get a bit of insight from yourselves as well about issues that you think are still being faced that need to be addressed. As I said, we're going to record this session, share it with everyone afterwards. If everyone is content with that, then we'll proceed. If not, if you can let me know before we share the recording, then that would be really helpful. I'm just going to hand over to Magda from TSS, who will take us through the rest of this afternoon. But can I ask you all just to make sure that your microphones are on silent, unless you wish the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Magda Brzozowska-Denny, working on a trader support service at Fujitsu site as a customs specialist. And I do have colleagues of mine from the TSS consortium, Shenke Singham. Shenke?
Yes, I'm Shenke Singham. I lead the Trade and Customs Policy work for the TSS consortium and the stakeholder engagement. As many of you know, my background is in international trade and regulatory customs policy over the last 3 decades.
Thank you. And we also have Doreen, who in the background will be answering the questions as I'll be presenting shortly. So Doreen, a couple of words about you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Doreen Crawford. I work with the Institute of Export as part of the TSS consortium, and I am a customs consultant with 25 years plus experience in the Northern Ireland market.
Thank you very much. I will put slides over on the screen now, but in general, we're trying to make this session as interactive as possible. So if you do have questions, we will have a Q&A section at the end, or just put them within the chat so that Doreen will be able to answer them as I'm presenting. And 2 seconds. So as I've mentioned, oops. Two seconds, it just got stuck. Okay, can you see the slides now?
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Very much. So as I mentioned, will be short sessions. Our aims for today is to provide you with a brief update of the latest TSS release. I introduce you to a new tool we've published on the NICTA site called Trader Journey Assistant, a new service that we've implemented towards the end of July called Assisted Completion Service. And then I'll hand over to Shenke for updates on Northern Ireland Protocol Bill and relating to that, the importance of registering for the UK Trader Scheme if you qualify and already are not registered on the scheme. So our latest release included introduction of the Assisted Completion Service. I'll talk more about that in a moment. We've made changes to maritime goods movements, which now allows amalgamation. You can do within the TSS portal and not through the case. Included further enhancements to prevent CDS rejection messages. So you will get more warnings and more prompts on the portal itself whenever you are missing mandatory data relating to a specific commodity code. The guidance on NICTA has also been reviewed and improved. We've also rearranged the NICTA site to now reflect the journey of the goods. So it's easier for the users to identify what type of declarations they might need to complete, instead of having to know the declaration type they need to complete in advance. In order for TSS to be compliant with its CFSP's authorization requirements, we've also introduced a new deadline for the submission of supplementary declarations, which now is by 9 p.m. on the following working day of the month following the goods movements. So the Trader Journey Assistant, it will ask you a few questions on the NICTA side. You will be talked through the steps you need to take to complete your declarations and prompt you of what declaration types you might need to complete. It also guides you towards the links for specific guidance, so you don't have to look through all types of guidance to find the relevant ones, but you will have the links to relevant guidance as an outcome of your journey questions and answers tool. It also provides you with the information if you will have to pay the duties and the best ways of potentially reducing those duties due. And the link to the Trader Journey Assistant is within the presentation. As Stephen mentioned, we'll share that with you after this webinar. For the assisted completion service that we've introduced, it's in general tool that will allow you to request a specific supplementary declaration to be completed on your behalf. So you might have noticed now that when you log into the portal and look at the supplementary declaration, on the header level of each supplementary declaration, you do have a new button in red called Assisted Completion. And once you click that button, you will be registered with TSS as under the case number for the declaration to be completed on your behalf. Our agents will be in contact with you to obtain the very specific required information that is required for the declaration, and the declaration will be completed on your behalf on the TSS portal. So as you will see, it's more expanded service for businesses that find it difficult to start off with declarations. Once few are completed on your behalf, you'll be able to review those and use those as, in a way, a template for your future declarations. So if we do get a chance towards the end of the presentation, I can log into the test system to show you where that button actually is. And the link to the guidance is also included on the presentation. And on that, I'll hand over to Shenke, who will be able to talk us through the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill.
Thanks very much, Magda. And before I do that, just a quick underscore what Magda was saying about the assisted completion service. This is new and it's a little bit different from what TSS normally does. So we're normally quite a reactive system where you fill in things on the portal and so on. The assisted completion service, we will actually help you do the declarations themselves. So it's quite a useful service. It's really aimed at people who are having more difficulty with the entries. But please do avail yourself of that service, and Magda will demonstrate the how to do that at the end of the session. So obviously Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, as you all know, on the 13th of June was introduced into Parliament. Got a couple of documents there that are quite useful. The press release is somewhat useful, but the document that's linked there in the second paragraph, a sort of problems and solutions kind of document, is actually quite useful because the bill itself, it being primary legislation, is not terribly helpful in terms of helping you to understand what is the intention of the UK government, whereas the problems and solutions document is quite helpful. And obviously, again, I think, as you know, we will have the bill basically assumes a red and a green channel. The green channel will be analogous to the UK trader scheme, analogous to the not at risk category, but these would be goods that are UK destination. In other words, the way you can prove that they remain within the UK customs territory. Just a note on the role of a lot of the restrictions that are associated with the UK trader scheme. So things like special rules on processing, trade remedies, TRQs, all of these things will not apply to the Green Channel. I mean, it will really be a case of, can I prove that my goods stay in the customs territory of the United Kingdom, which obviously includes Northern Ireland. Obviously, if I am a processor, the degree of difficulty of proving that is higher, but that should not defeat you from being on the Green Channel. And while there will be some data that will be required on the Green Channel, you will not have to do a customs declaration, and you will and the data that would be required is being currently worked out, but it would be fairly minimal data, and it would be quite easy to handle that. There is, of course, also a dual regulatory scheme, which would involve the particular type of regulation that would apply for GB to Northern Ireland movements. That is also being worked out at the moment. Obviously, that's particularly of interest in the case of SPS regulation. So again, how that precisely would work and what traders would have to do is a matter which is being co-designed right now by both the UK government and business. And I think many of the trade associations, including Manufacturing Northern Ireland, have been involved in that co-design process. We also, as TSS, have regular conversations with HMRC and DEFRA about how these the different border model would work and how the dual regulatory system would work on our system. And so if you have views, if you have concerns, if you have ideas, please do share them with us. I'm sure you'll be sharing them with Stephen anyway, but do share them with us as well. We'd very much like to hear them. Now, the assumption was that when the bill went through on the 13th of June, that it would take about a year to go through the House of Lords and the back and forth process between the House of Commons and the House of Lords. It's fair to say that even with the leadership election in the UK, the bill has gone through the House of Commons fairly rapidly, perhaps more rapidly than people thought. It's gone through third reading without amendment before the summer recess. There will be a period from September the 5th when the new leader is installed, while before it goes to the House of Lords, probably a 5-week period or so before it goes to the House of Lords, and then we'll see what happens. But it may be slightly quicker than a year, but you're probably talking about sometime in the course of between, let's say, end of the first quarter of next year and end of the second quarter of next year is when it would receive royal assent, and there would be secondary legislation as well that would implement some of the ideas that are set out in the bill. But the co-design process is going on right now in 2 phases, one relating primarily to the green and red channel and how they would operate, and one relating to the dual regulatory scheme. And ideas, views, input from business is very, very much sought after. So please do interact with those processes. We've got some links there, including a DEFRA consultation link, which you can link up to if you're interested in participating in HMRC's consultation process. You can contact them directly, or you can contact us, or you can talk to, obviously, Stephen is involved in that process as well. If we go to the next slide, please. Sorry, we're having trouble getting that slide.
Having problems on this one, please.
Well, let me start. Yeah, let me start talking about it while Magda is finding it. And it's really primarily about the UK trader scheme, because It is important, and before I go on to that, let me just say that obviously nothing is going to change until the bill is in effect. There may be some minor things that would change sort of from the start, from September, but I think they would be quite limited, and the major change would come from the bill itself. So that first point there that you briefly saw, nothing on the bill is going to change. I mean, it doesn't change the process now. So the process continues to be what it is now. We talked about when the bill would pass, what that was likely to be. We don't know that, of course. That depends on how the House of Lords deals with it. I would say that it is important that it has gone through unamended on third reading, which means it's quite a strong. It goes into the House of Lords in quite a strong position, and the government is likely to push that. So there may be very minor amendments to it that would sort of be allowed, but I don't think you'd see major changes. In terms of the green channel, how you would get on it, I mean, that is partly the proof that your goods are moving within the customs territory. That will be the major issue, because it is a UK destination scheme. The same would be true of the dual regulatory scheme, in the sense that if you are choosing UK SPS regulation, for example, you would have to be there would obviously be a level of compliance and quite a high level of requirement on proving that your goods are staying in the customs territory. Obviously, in the case of SPS, the EU has much lower risk appetite with regard to SPS risk versus fiscal risk. And I've talked about how you can apply, how you can sort of talk to DEFRA, HMLC, other government departments to talk about your particular process flow. And I think what's really valuable for the government, and also for us actually, is understanding what you particularly do. What is your process flow? So general ideas about the politics of this are probably less valuable than actually knowing what it is you do, and how that would be affected, and how difficult it would be, to be on the green channel, for example. And there are open questions that need to be resolved. Things like, what if you're uncertain? What does that look like? What if you make a decision, it comes in on the green channel, and then you choose later on to move it to the EU, or vice versa? And how the reimbursement system might work in the case of red channel goods. Subsidy and tax rules under the bill, those would be sort of repatriated to the UK. In the case of subsidy, that is quite important, because under Article 10 of the protocol, the EU state aid rules apply to Northern Ireland. The problem for the UK is that under the jurisprudence of the European Court of Justice, state aid rules that apply in one place can actually be tracked back to GB, because of the possibility of the trade between GB and Northern Ireland might implicate what the UK is doing, or in a particular facility, business, plant in GB, and that's obviously quite difficult for the UK government. So there probably would be, or there will be in the bill, a provision on UK state aid, UK subsidy control rules applying. Now, UK subsidy control rules are unlikely to be massively different from EU state aid rules. So the principle of the government not providing subsidies to particular firms unless they are within particular, agreed categories, would remain the case. The actual amounts, the limits, and so forth, those might change, but the sort of principles, I think, would remain very much the same. If we go to the next slide, please. So just a word on the UK trader scheme, because obviously things stay as they are at the moment, and the UK trader scheme is very, very important if you are moving your goods not at risk. It has, if anything, an additional importance now, because whenever a decision is made to move people to the UK to whatever UK scheme, you know, the Green Channel will be backed by a trusted trader scheme. So the decision to move people to that scheme, if you are on the UK trader scheme to start with, it is going to be a lot easier. Your position is going to be a lot better, because I think what will probably happen is there'll be some sort of porting of people who are on the UK trader scheme over to the trusted trader scheme for the Green Channel movement. So it's going to be really important to be on the UK trader scheme, and the Green Channel would operate a bit like the UK trader scheme in the sense that you have to be on the scheme, you have to be on the trusted trader scheme, and then you have to declare the consignment to be Green Channel, in the same way that if you're on the UK trader scheme now, you have to essentially in your declaration, you use the NIREM code at the supplementary declaration stage to say that your consignment was not at risk. So it's a sort of two-stage process, if you will. That will remain the same with the Green Channel. Incidentally, that is why you can have, at least there's no reason why you can't have, trucks that carry both Green and Red Channel goods. Obviously, if you're carrying both Green and Red Channel goods, you can't rely on the fact that there will be no physical inspection of the truck, because you do have Red Channel goods on it. But the process, you should be able to take advantage of the process of Green Channel consignments and Red Channel consignments on the same truck. So what you choose to do will depend on you know, your view of the risk of being of the truck being stopped, which is low anyway, even with Red Channel. It's a risk-based system, so it's not that they check everything, as you know. They check maybe 1-2% of goods, and it would be that order of magnitude for Red Channel goods as well. It's just Green Channel goods would have little, if any, physical checking, but certainly would be risk-based and intelligence-based. So those are the requirements. Now, what I would say with the UKTS is, if you are able to be on the UK trader scheme, and for whatever reason you haven't availed yourself of that opportunity, maybe you thought that you needed to be have a facility in Northern Ireland and you didn't. Maybe somebody else is doing the declaration on a DDP basis and they don't have a facility in Northern Ireland. That is not necessary under the temporary easement, which is under the standstill continued indefinitely. So there shouldn't be a barrier to you seeking to be on the UK trader scheme, and we would strongly encourage traders to get on it if you haven't already. And certainly, if you do want to make your application to the UK trader scheme, well, you have to make it. It has to be made, you know, in your name. We and our agents will certainly work very hard to help you get on the scheme. And if we go to and Dorian's putting some useful links on there in terms of what is available on the Northern Ireland Customs and Trade Academy. And we got a link there to the Northern Ireland Customs and Trade Academy site, and we are taking some steps. There's a lot more information on that site over time than we started out with, and so conscious that it is not the easiest thing to navigate, we are taking steps to make it easier to navigate. So I will stop there, and happy to answer any questions on any of that, or indeed any other problems that anyone is having, you know, generally in terms of their movements.
Shankar, maybe just if I kick off and just to clarify some things, we're not co-designing neither the green or red channel nor the dual regulatory regime with the UK government. We're ourselves and other business groups are providing an analysis and insight into it, but we're certainly not designing it. It's up to the UK government to design that. So I think it's important to make that distinction. And on top of some of the challenges or issues you raise, there will be commercial decisions as well that are taken, not just by businesses here in Northern Ireland, but as we've already seen, commercial decisions taken by customers. So we know that in May, Northern Ireland's manufacturing community was the most optimistic and with the strongest order books of any region in the UK in the PMIs, the Purchasing Managers Index. We know then in June the UK published its legislation, and we've gone from the top of the league to the bottom of the league inside the period of 1 month. That's a clear reflection of the commercial decisions being taken by customers, not by businesses here themselves. So I think it's important that at this point in time, from the engagements that have taken place, not only between ourselves and some manufacturers and HMRC, DEFRA and others, it's important to point out that there's very deep concern about two things. One is what the UK is proposing and the consequences of that. And two, the fact that there isn't a negotiation between the UK and the EU at the moment. And you know, fine well in Northern Ireland, unless there is agreement, then somebody always finds difficulty with it. So there's a challenge here to try to get negotiations to an agreement which is sustainable. And there is concern that what the UK is doing currently is suboptimal to actually find an agreement. And we wish everybody would get back around the table and secure that agreement. So I just think it was really important that we make clear what our role is right now. We're very happy to take feedback on what the UK is proposing, to share that with the UK government, and we continue to do that almost on a daily basis. But there's very few people actually in business at the moment that have been allowed into this process by the UK government themselves to actually understand the opportunity and the impact and the consequences of what's being proposed. We would hope that that comes now in the second stage, and that many more manufacturers would have the chance to engage with it, because at this point in time, those people engaged in the processing side, which is 60% of our external income in Northern Ireland, 65% of our external income in Northern Ireland, they're deeply concerned about dual regulatory regime and the commercial border that's already being built as a result of that even being suggested. And two, manufacturers at this point in time that have been exposed to the proposals believe that everything would still need to be red channeled rather than green channeled. So there's a lot of work to be done there to provide detail, to provide assurance and understanding. Should the UK government proceed along this route and take the decisions that it says it's going to take, then we could be in a worse rather than a better position, and we don't want to be there. We want to be in a better position. That's what all this engagement's about. So just think it's important just to lay that down there, that that this is UK government's decisions only. We'll provide some insight and analysis based on the detail as it's released, but at this point in time, not enough detail has been released.
Yeah, just to clarify the word co-design, thanks for clarifying that. So when the UK government talks about co-design, it'll always be the government's decision about what the legislation will look like and what the process will look like. But I think they're trying to signal a little bit perhaps more consultation than may have happened in the past, which is, I think, a good thing. So we'll repeat the offer to businesses if you have issues to raise. We're particularly interested in your actual process, your actual journey, to see how that will work and how that will play into the sort of green channel, red channel discussion. And obviously, to the extent that there is any restart or continuation of the negotiations, the difference between the green channel, red channel with regard to customs and where the UK and the EU are on a sort of UK TS++, if you like, which is not just the fiscal issues being taken care of in the UK trader scheme, but also simplifications and facilitations. They're not a million miles apart, obviously. That obviously, yes, dual regulation is they are much further apart on that one, but with regard to customs, they aren't a million miles apart, and you can sort of see a landing zone that we hope can be achieved.
Absolutely, I think that there is good work that has been done on both sides, and with the insight from business included in that, and I think agreement can be found there. should they be in a room to find agreement. That's the critical piece. Can I invite anybody, if they have any questions, either to signal by raising their hands or put a little note in the chat. Now's your opportunity to do that.
And while we wait for questions, I wonder, Magda, if you can show the assisted completion test site, so all of the sites, so people can see how to get on it.
Definitely. Apologies for technical difficulties earlier. This time should be easier as it's not on the full screen. So I've logged into a test system. So you'll be familiar with the menu of the declarations. So usually you will have your declarations under drafts. You might have attempted it and received rejection messages from CDS, so it will move to the input required supplementary declarations. But when you do have your list and click on a specific declaration, when it opens, as I've mentioned, I'm in a test, which I can see all the declaration within test, so it's a bit slower. You do have a button of assisted completion over here at the top of the declaration. So this is a free service for anyone interested. There is a limit of how many declarations we can process on your behalf per month. But once you click that, a case will be created and you will be contacted by TSS agent to either ask for the copies of the documents relating to the specific shipment or just provide details to I think it's 15 different questions relating to the type of product move, values, and additional movement information. And once that's received by the agent, the declaration is then being updated by the agent, so you don't have to go through all the screens and search for the fields that are still to be updated. As I've mentioned, once it's processed, you will be able to submit the completed declaration. So I think Doreen shared all the links to the guidance within the chat.
Mike, can I just ask a question on that? So it's still the responsibility of the trader then to finalize and send the completed declaration, because it's their data. You've provided assistance along the way, but it still requires the trader themselves to press go.
I'll ask Doreen for assistance on here, because
Yes.
I'm sure we are asking to confirm the data is correct.
That's correct. Thanks, Magda. Stephen, when you click the assisted completion, you will be given a view of terms and conditions, which highlights that TSS will input the information on the trader's behalf, and it's information only provided by the trader. Once the process has been completed, you will get a communication asking you to hit the final submit button to say that you accept all the information that's being put on your behalf. So it does legally sit with the trader, but we will facilitate all the data input on their behalf.
That's great. I just wanted to leave everyone without any doubt that's still their legal responsibility and not yours. You're just trying to
Indeed.
be here.
Indeed, yes. Thank you.
We just try and make it much easier and just actually enter the data and provide assistance with searching for commodity codes. We update any additional document codes, as they are called, relating to prohibitions and restrictions. So just providing the basic data information should be much easier.
That's good.
And as I've mentioned, sorry, Constantine.
No, go ahead.
I'll share my screen again, because as I've mentioned, you will have a limited amount of declaration to complete on your behalf. But if you move the same or similar types of goods, there is a button over here at the bottom of the goods where you can import previous goods. So if you know you're importing the same thing over and over again, instead of updating all the data again on new declarations, you can just import the data from the previous declaration. So if you choose few declarations that mostly represent your movement, then you can use that functionality to actually populate the data within the declaration and just amend or update the consignment specific references. For example, the invoice number quantities and the weights and the values.
Thank you, Doreen and Magda. Any questions from anyone on the floor? I don't see any being signalled. In the middle, thank colleagues for their presentations. There is an invitation there that Schenker has extended to everyone, and it's really important that people pick up on that invitation, both in terms of the engagement with the assistance that's been provided by TSS. I think that's a very useful and very helpful new service. I know certainly I've passed one particular trader over recently, and it's been a great help through Magda in resolving their issues. So thanks for that. So if you are having issues, then please do get in touch, because TSS is there to help. And then secondly, the invitation on the engagement about the UK's protocol bill. We could end up in that position. So it's really important that traders' own experiences, good, bad, and different, their questions, whether they are firm questions or just some confusion needing to be clarified. It's really important that we get those through in the coming days and weeks, so that there's a clear sight of what can be designed by the UK government in terms of supporting traders in Northern Ireland moving stuff from GB into Northern Ireland. So if you are interested in engaging there, contact any of those links directly, contact through yourselves, and we'll be happy to introduce you in. Unless I hear anyone else signals anymore, I think we will probably close the session for today. Thanks very much to Schenker.
Sorry, Stephen.
Go ahead, Doreen.
Can I just add one more thing? It's I know this is mainly a manufacturing process and audience that we have on here, but if you can avail of the UKTS, please apply, even if you are using products within your own plant that's not for onward sale. Apply to the UKTS, get your application on, get approved, because if we do go to the red channel, green channel, this is giving you a foot in the door with your application. So I would encourage all your members to make that application.
Absolutely. We've been seeing that for the last 18 months and more. The UKTS isn't about just everything you do in your business, but can be about bits of stuff that you do in your business. So if you're using consumables as part of your manufacturing process, if you're using tea bags in your tea room and you're bringing those in, UKTS is applicable in those circumstances, but you have to go through a process here to ensure that you're registered with it. So it's important to act now in order to ensure a smooth operation on the other end should we end up in that position. So it's a very good point, Doreen. Thanks for reinforcing that. I don't see any other signals from anyone, so can I just thank Magda, Schenker, Doreen, and colleagues for joining us this morning. We will share the slides, we will share the recording, and thank you all for your time this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.